Waleed from Muscat Hooker here. Thanks for joining. Thank you for your response to the first video. You'll notice a big difference. I don't know what I was thinking, guys, I really don't, but it is what it is. Clean slate and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, a lot of my powers have disappeared over the last few days, and I'm attributing it to the fact that I'm not as follically endowed in this area, so not ideal. Anyway, something to cheer myself up. We're going to be doing something that I alluded to in the previous video. So we talked about how MustHave works on Fluff Under Pack with the Surrey and the Provost, and the reasons why. And I also did mention that I like favouring that pack method on MustHave, despite whatever I'm mixing it in with. And Tangiers is probably the best example of that. So what we're going to do today is mixing Tangiers, MustHave, throw in a bit of Supernova as well from Dark Side. You can use Frosty or even a bit of K-Mint. I like Supernova because I think it's a true icy cooling, well, I'm not even going to say the word flavour because it literally is just a flavour enhancer in terms of the icing and, or the cooling rather, it gives to the bowl without distorting the natural flavours that are in there. So that's what we're going to do. Just something about mixing MustHave and Tangiers. You've got Tangiers which is pliable, not like MustHave which is glycerin heavy. So when you have the two together, it's almost as if the MustHave absorbs the Tangiers and it becomes this, it homogenises to become this really, really complex tobacco, which works brilliantly, really, really well in this pack. So on both of those brands, obviously the key thing is that for me, not the density, normally like a dense or a light dense, and something like Tangiers straight and a funnel bowl, probably 1 to 2 mil under the rim, and using a Provost. And the same applies to MustHave, albeit Fluff Under Pack, still using a Provost and a similar sort of bowl. Probably in Tangiers going for something a bit more shallower, MustHave a bit deeper because of those respective packs. But the fact that they both use a Provost is key for both of those. Mixing them and then potentially making the tobacco less heat resilient by dint of the fact that we're fluffing one of them, which is ideally meant to be on a dense pack. The fact that you're mixing it with the MustHave is going to tame it, but also I think using something like a Lotus, which isn't as efficient on the heat transfer as the Provost, works great. The airflow is going to help matters as well, so using a traditional bowl. So that's the setup that I'm going to opt for today. I'm going to show you guys how I do it, and then you guys give it a go, let me know your thoughts. So let's just get into it. Well guys, so let's just run down our options. So in terms of traditional bowls, what do I have? I'll lead with this one because it isn't readily available. It's not a realistic option, but and I promise I'm not just flexing it, but it's one worth talking about. So the Ermine Turfing's it's good low cap traditional style bowl. I wouldn't say it's Turkish style, but definitely traddy, probably more Egyptian style. Again, quite shallow on the trench. This thing weighs about ½ kilo. It's not to be sniffed at. And it screams for heat. You can take stuff that might be singed on 3 coals and make it sing like that. So yeah, great bowl, but objectively I shouldn't really be talking about this one because it's not the most accessible. What I love about this method is that these bowls are inexpensive and they do a great job. This is another one, so this is the Kong Turkish Boy. Fairly shallow, I suppose, comparatively speaking. A bit on the wide side, but it does take a fair amount of tobacco. But this is a great bowl, readily available. You can get this through the likes of Kakas. I tried this for the first time at Tamak last year. Thoroughly enjoyed the session they packed for me. They did Tangiers, funnily enough, was in that bowl. I made up the mix based on what they had, and they did a great job. Really enjoyed using that bowl, but won't be using that today. Another one which is a good shout is the Tortuga Turkish. Again, I actually wanted this originally before I had my hands on the Kong Turkish, and we all know how I feel about the Dom Turkish rather, and we all know how I feel about that bowl. So again, I mean, this is a good low capacity traditional bowl. Do recommend it when you're trying one-off flavours for the first time, assessing out how best to pack them with a sort of traddy and Lotus setup or similar. But today, the one that for me still remains my favourite is the Don Turkish. I've been a big fan of this since I first spot one up. I think I'm going back to it's August 2020, so it's coming to 2 years, and this is still my go-to. It's got a lot of battle scars because this is arguably my most used bowl. I gravitate, or I tend to rotate all my funnel bowls, but in terms of traditional, more often than not, it's the Don Turkish. That trench is ideal. It's not too deep, it's not too shallow, and on this pack method, it definitely tames the tobacco, so we're going to go for that. The light's not great today, guys. Didn't really anticipate. The clocks went forward, which obviously helps our cause. It gives me a bit more light at this time of the day, but let's just see how I can no matter how I rotated it, I think the best thing to do was to get the flash on so you guys can see what we're talking about. So like I said, we're doing Tangiers and MustHave together, and I'll show you how it's packed in the Don Turkish, which is my bowl of choice in terms of the traditional bracket. So what we're going to do is, again, similar to how I did in my MustHave tutorial, we're just going to use a poker and just fluff in about 50% to a similar height, really, so 2-3 mil does the job. So what we normally do to tame Tangiers when we're doing it straight is opting for a dense pack or a light dense or similar, closing off the air pockets. This way we're using a lower nick compatible brand, in my opinion, like MustHave, and the components and the nature of MustHave being such that it's quite glycerin heavy, it's going to homogenise with the Tangiers, tame the overall nick hit, and make it a pleasant smoke. So you wouldn't think that Tangiers can last longer than 5 minutes on a fluff pack, but you do get relatively impressive longevity doing it this way if that's what you want to go for. But the overall smoking experience is really, really enjoyable as well. So I'm going for 2 of my favourites. So Pear's one of my top 5 Tangiers flavours, and Kiwi Smoothie is arguably my favourite from MustHave. So thought mix the 2 together. So we're not going for more than half the bowl in Tang. You know what, I'm going to drop it a bit just to be conservative. So let's do that for now. Let's make it predominantly a MustHave bowl, and then we'll make a room for our cooling. I'll probably go for something like Supernova, and I'll get to that. Really, really need to re-up on mine. This is a special occasion, clearly. I should be hoarding my Kiwi Smoothie. It's never good when you can see the base of your can, but it is what it is. We move. I've actually never done this mix before. It's one that I think would work, because I do like those autumnal flavours like pear, green apple, and they're both here. It's kind of like an homage to forbidden fruit, really, this mix. There we go. And then the final component, I'm going to go for Supernova. You can go for cane mint or similar. And again, need to re-up on the Supernova with everything that's going on. This is a very sobering exercise, but we move. I'm literally just whatever's left is going in here. So quantity-wise, that's about it. In terms of mixing it, really straightforward. All you got to do is take your poker and just rummage like so, and just make sure everything is homogenized there. This is the key to making this method work. And this is what I'm saying about MustHave, when you put it into its natural density being, I've said that MustHave's natural density is kind of like a normal pack, because this is me fluffing it out now, and you can see the height rising a bit because it's just so gloopy, for want of a better description. I have a bit of Supernova as well. Again, the premise here, we go in for a trady bowl to allow for a bit more airflow, and something similar to a Lotus. In terms of our HMD, I think the Provost, as much as I swear by it for both Tangiers and MustHave, with their respective, in inverted commas, optimal pack methods, doing it this way I think is the best way to enjoy both of these brands mixed, but you've got to accommodate the fact that now we've got Tangiers fluffed, and something like the Provost can be very efficient on heat transfer. So the Lotus, I think, would be a better shout for this kind of method. And again, it does open the drawer a bit, so just go for, if you prefer a bit more restriction like I do, just go for a rig with a bit more inherent restriction in it. So this is the pack. I'm going to get the coals on because there's no foil in, straight HMD job, and we'll get to smoking this very soon. Matte Pear, classic slim mini. Had the large version of this rig about 6 months ago, sold it so I can get the mini version, and I'm very pleased that I did, because the threaded base, the slightly narrower down stem. The only real sort of negative is that the diffuser can't come off. Sometimes if you want to have it undiffused, that would have been better. This one is a bit on the smooth side. The diffuser on the actual large version is great. But that being said, my overall sort of preference is the Mini, hence I went for it because the fact that it's so compact, the threaded base, the overall aesthetic, and that downstem being a few mil narrower than the larger version, definitely one for me. So I'll do a full, more extensive review of this on my YouTube, but for anyone who wants a bit more of an extensive overview, here it is. Now, in terms of our heat management, I'm gonna go for the cloud today. Kind of ruined the surprise there, but yeah, we've got options. We've got the, need to give this a bit of a scrub down, but we've got the Negrani. It's actually good. A lot of people clown on it. I think the thing with the Negrani is that, again, it can smoke a bit hot, so I'll probably employ lower heat coals like Charmin, I think would be the shout for something like this. Don't think you need to go for full coals in any instance. This one, however, I think Lotus 1 Plus is still the one for me in terms of a HMD option. I think it works great on the Don Turkish. This is a regular setup for me. Molasses catcher, traditional bowl in the shape of the Don Turkish, and the Lotus. And I'm going to see how the coals are doing. Going to check if they're as hot as I like them to be, and we'll get set up. So, a lot of people do ask about let's place coals in terms of the Lotus. Really depends on what you're smoking. I like to go through a 3 coal startup personally, so okay. Try to ash them as much as possible beforehand, because that is something you need to definitely be wary of when you're using the Lotus, because there are open vents into the trench and you ideally don't want to be getting any ash in there. Let's get the standard one. So yeah, that looks fine. And the one just on top there. In a bit closer. That's how I'm doing it. So, as you can see, 2 coals either side of one another. We've got these steps. You see here and here on this side. Just put the coals either side of that, and then the third one just on this opposite side, where it's a bit more. There's a bit more of a gap to work with, and that's how you usually start it up. You can do 2 coals with the lid on, whatever your preferences goes. That's how I like to do it, and yeah, this method with it being an underpack, and traditional bowl, Lotus, or similar style HMD, need a bit of patience. So we'll give this the usual minimum 5 minutes to warm up, get to the optimal temperature, and we'll give it a first soak. Looking forward to it. Waited 5 minutes, well actually no, 6 minutes. I normally go for like 6 to 8 minutes, so we're there now. The bowl feels, yeah, that's warm, nice and warm, not too hot. So we like it, so let's see how it plumes. I love this pack method. It's not for everyone, but I love it. Yeah, you feel like you're smoking. This is what I love about this. Now, there's always a lot of controversy covered from discussions surrounding what HMD to use on Tangiers. Smoke how you like, first of all. However you like to smoke and what pack methods you like to employ, or heat management, entirely up to you. These two together works an absolute treat, fluffing them together, because it's no longer Tangiers as you know it when you're mixing it in MustHave. Have I tried Tangiers Fluff before, straight? Yes, I have. It's definitely an experience. But doing it this way, I think you still get the hallmarks of what would dictate a good, objectively good session. It's not do it every single day. It's not like something that I would employ at 9 o'clock in the morning. I have done, but yeah, it definitely is a robust smoking experience, and one that I would like people to try out. Now, I am a seasoned smoker, but if this was a bit too coarse or didn't smoke well, I wouldn't bother. I'd just call it KO. I wouldn't persevere. You know, I know tobacco comes at a premium, but if I'm not enjoying the session, I'll just chalk it up to a bad session. I'm not going to be wasting my lungs on a bad session. This ain't that at all. This is a really, really, really good session as far as I'm concerned, in terms of what I like to go for, what I like to smoke, what I like to enjoy. In terms of those two brands, generally I like to do them in their sort of conventional way, which is, like I said, dense, flannel, Tangiers, and then Fluff Pack, MustHave, using a Provost. Mixing the two together, you can try different sort of pack methods, going for a more denser one and a Fluff pack, maybe going for like a normal pack, and it does work. It does work, but I think this is better. I think you get a truer sort of experience with those two individual brands, and if you've got two flavours that work, there's various different mixes. This is the first time I'm trying pairing kiwi smoothie, and it worked great. If I had more kiwi smoothie available to me, I would be doing this a lot more regularly in the coming weeks, but sadly it's just going to be to this video, I'm afraid. But I'm going to enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm going to do a few more videos of this ilk with Ramadan looming. I'm not sure when that will be. I thought I'd squeeze this one in just before. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Give it a go and have a play around with it. But definitely one I think people should try. And definitely get your hands on a Done Turkish if you've got access to them. It's a really good traditional bowl. I don't tend to gravitate towards like the Pikachu bowls and that kind of thing, but this particular one, it works and it slaps, and it is a versatile bowl. Works on a myriad of different brands, particularly with Russian darks. Blackburn's another one. I'll get to that one eventually. But that's about it, guys. So if I don't see you before Ramadan Kareem to everyone that's observing the month. If not, my brothers and sisters in humanity, all the best to you guys as well. And I'll definitely see you guys soon. All the very best.